In the 1920s, the California Alligator Farm in Los Angeles offered a curious attraction. Children interacted with tame alligators, even riding on them. The location was very popular and housed hundreds of alligators and crocodiles. Although today this practice is considered impractical due to safety and animal welfare concerns, at the time it was seen as an eccentricity and unique entertainment. New Yorkers cool off at the public pool in Astoria in the summer of 1940, while the Hell Gate Railway Bridge appears in the background. The pool was a popular leisure spot, offering a space to relax in the city's heat. The Hell Gate Bridge, built in 1916, connects Manhattan to Queens and became an important symbol of New York's infrastructure. The Deputy Police Commissioner of New York, John A. Leach, in uniform, oversees the disposal of illegal alcohol in a sewer during an operation in 1921. The photo depicts a moment during Prohibition, when the production, sale, and transportation of alcohol were banned in the country. Alcohol seized in police operations was frequently destroyed in this manner to reinforce the strict laws of the time. The Texas Rangers line up in front of a grocery store in Cotulla, Texas, in 1887. The group was famous for acting as police force, scouts, and soldiers during a time marked by border conflicts. Known for their skill with weapons and knowledge of the territory, the Rangers fought in battles against Native American tribes, patrolled borders, and fought criminals in remote areas of the state. During Prohibition, an ingenious strategy used by bootleggers was to use trucks with wooden linings. These vehicles concealed secret compartments, accessed by small, camouflaged hatches, which allowed them to transport alcohol illegally without raising suspicion. Bootleggers' creativity challenged authorities, who were constantly looking for ways to intercept these hidden loads. In this 1897 photo, we see members of the Hatfield clan, one of the most famous families in West Virginia, known for their legendary feud with the McCoy clan from Kentucky. The dispute, which started in previous decades, involved violent conflicts and land disputes, becoming one of the most notorious stories of the Old West, with both clans immortalized in popular culture. A line of passengers prepares to board an American Airlines plane in the 1920s, a period when commercial aviation was beginning to take off. Flying was a privilege for few, marked by simple aircraft designs and journeys that were still a novelty. Even with limited comfort, these flights paved the way for the expansion of aviation as a vital transportation mode. Men and women queued to buy bread during the Great Depression, a common scene in American cities of the 1930s. The economic collapse left millions unemployed and without basic resources, leading to the creation of bread and soup lines organized by charities and community initiatives to alleviate hunger and extreme poverty. From the top of the Tennessee state capitol in the 1860s, one could see Nashville with low houses, trees, and open land. During the Civil War, it was one of the first Confederate cities occupied by the Union, due to its importance as a railroad and supply center. After the war, Nashville began to stand out as a cultural and educational center, solidifying its position in the South. Around 1900, in the outskirts of Lexington, Kentucky, a school wagon full of children heads to school. Before school buses, these horse-drawn wagons were the primary means of student transportation in rural areas. With space for several students, they connected distant communities to education, facing long journeys on dirt roads. Carriages travel the streets of Longacre Square in New York around 1900. This area, which was then dominated by shops and theaters, would be renamed Times Square in 1904 after the headquarters of the newspaper, the New York Times, was installed. At the time, transportation was still horse-drawn, but streetcars and automobiles were beginning to emerge, marking the beginning of an era of urban transformation in the city that never sleeps. A group of African Americans gathers in front of a house in Cumberland Landing, Virginia, in 1862. Many had fled slavery in search of freedom during the Civil War. Gathered in makeshift camps near Union lines, these individuals awaited protection and a new chance at life while facing uncertainties amidst the conflict. In 1909, Coca-Cola's story began to take to the streets of Knoxville, Tennessee. Two delivery men, pioneers of the brand, drive one of the first Ford vans, marking the beginning of a new era of large-scale distribution. Coca-Cola, which was rapidly expanding, took advantage of the growing transportation networks to reach more consumers and consolidate its presence in cities across the country. Under the Nebraska sky, a farming family poses in front of their sod house in 1885. These houses were built with sod blocks cut from the ground, a necessary alternative due to the lack of wood on the Great Plains. In the background, one can see the vast land where they grew their crops, facing strong winds and unpredictable weather that shaped the settlers' routines. In the border town of Dodge City, Kansas, around 1872, we see a gun store, ammunition, and household goods, essential items for life in the Old West. Known as a busy trade and gathering point for cowboys and sheriffs, Dodge City was one of the main cattle centers in the region, marked by its lively atmosphere and stories of conflict. A young messenger poses with his bicycle in Nashville, Tennessee in 1910. At the time, many young people worked in challenging conditions to help support their families. Messengers traveled long distances, facing busy traffic and adverse weather conditions to quickly deliver letters and packages. In 1907, a class poses in front of a one-room schoolhouse in Round Top, Texas. Rural schools like this gathered children of various ages in one space, with one teacher responsible for all subjects. Families often contributed supplies and helped maintain the place, believing that basic education was essential to improve their lives. During a heavy snowstorm that covered New York, horse-drawn wagons carried snow removed from the streets in January 1908. Workers used shovels to manually clear the streets, braving the intense cold. Without modern equipment, the process was slow but necessary to keep traffic and city activities running. On Whitehall Street in Atlanta, in 1864, a black soldier from the United States Colored Troops rests in front of an old slave auction house. Formed during the Civil War, these troops were made up of freed African Americans and fugitives. The location, once a symbol of the slave trade, now marked the fight for freedom and union. Under the Florida sun, elegantly dressed bathers enjoy a leisurely day in Palm Beach. Women wear long dresses with long sleeves and carry umbrellas to shield themselves from the intense sun, while men wear formal attire with hats. The clothing of the time was heavy with layers of fabric, reflecting Victorian fashion and the need for modesty and sophistication. At night, Times Square in the 1920s glows with neon signs for brands like Macy's and Sonora. Streetcar tracks cross the streets, while cars and carriages move through the scene. Electric billboards gave the area its iconic look, while theaters and cinemas attracted crowds, solidifying the area as the heart of New York's nightlife and entertainment. In this photo, we see the Thompson dairy wagons in Washington, D.C. in 1927, ready to deliver fresh milk. At the time, milk was delivered directly to homes, and these horse-drawn wagons were common. Thompson Dairy was known for its reliable service, but over time the wagons would be replaced by trucks as technology advanced. A mother and her son work wrapping cigarette papers in a tenement in New York in 1909. This practice was common among immigrant families living in poor conditions and seeking any source of income. Tenements were characterized by cramped, unhealthy, and overcrowded spaces, reflecting the challenges faced by poor workers at the turn of the 20th century. In the 1920s, the growth of automobile use brought traffic jams to cities, as shown in this photo, with lines of cars stretching for miles. Road infrastructure had not kept pace with the rapid increase in vehicles. Although technology advanced, the challenge of long commutes still remains relevant today. The Wawona tree, a giant sequoia located in Yosemite National Park, had a tunnel carved into its base in 1881 to attract tourists. Carriages and automobiles could pass through it, making it an iconic attraction. Weakened over the years, the tree unfortunately fell during a harsh winter in 1969. President Abraham Lincoln, with his famous top hat, is on the battlefield of Antietam, Maryland, in 1862, accompanied by General George B. McClellan. This moment occurred during the American Civil War, in one of the bloodiest battles of the conflict, where Lincoln and his commanders discussed strategies and the direction of the war. In this 1889 photo, a line of wagons loaded with borax and a water tank is pulled by a team of 20 mules in the arid Death Valley, California. This challenging transportation was essential for the mining industry, covering long distances under extreme conditions. Each journey depended on these trained mules to cross scorching deserts and dangerous trails. In the heart of Silver King, Arizona, 2 mule teams crossed the town with 4 wagons loaded with ore, around 1880. These wagons transported silver extracted from the local mine to smelters and distant markets. Silver King was known for its rich silver production, which attracted workers and boosted regional trade. A young newspaper boy sells his papers in the busy downtown area of St. Louis on a Saturday afternoon in 1900. These youths, known as newsies, were common in cities at the time, working long hours to help support their families. They faced the frantic pace of the streets and depended on selling each copy to make some money by the end of the day. An immigrant family watches the New York skyline from Ellis Island's dock in 1925, waiting for the ferry that would take them to the island. Ellis Island was the main point of entry for millions of people seeking a new start in the United States. Like this family, many left their homelands, facing the unknown in search of opportunities and a better life. A busy street in Helena, Montana, around 1870, with merchants, locals, and travelers circulating between saloons, shops, and warehouses. Founded during the gold rush, Helena quickly became one of the richest cities in the Old West, accumulating so much gold that for a time it had more millionaires per capita than any other city in the United States. Men gather around Glen Mountain House in Watkins Glen, New York, in a scene capturing the social life of the time. The house, popular as a tourist destination, attracted visitors who came to explore the region's natural beauty, including famous waterfalls and trails. Watkins Glen was known for its picturesque landscape and tourism in the 19th century. Sutter Street to Grant Avenue in San Francisco, just after the 1906 earthquake, which measured 7.9 on the Richter scale. The earthquake and the fires that followed left over 3,000 dead. San Francisco faced one of the greatest tragedies in its history, but reconstruction efforts began quickly, with the city reinventing itself in the years that followed. 3 unemployed men wait outside the Salvation Army in San Francisco in 1939. During the Great Depression, places like the Salvation Army were vital support points, offering meals, clothing, and shelter for the needy. Even at the end of the 1930s, as the country began to recover economically, millions were still facing unemployment and hardship. Workers and locals sit in front of a train loaded with logs, crossing a wooden bridge in the Cascade Mountains, Oregon. These bridges were quickly built to keep up with the logging boom and did not last long. The train carried large logs of pine and sequoia, typical of the region, passing through trails that cut through the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest. Route 66, seen here in Seligman, Arizona, in 1947, was a symbol of American expansion and the peak of road travel. Known as the Main Street of America, it connected Chicago to Los Angeles, crossing 8 states. Stops like gas stations, diners, and repair shops, such as the Texaco in the photo, served travelers crossing the country. Young miners pose in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, in 1911, highlighting the harsh conditions faced by children in mining. Many began working in childhood, performing dangerous tasks in coal mines to help support their families. This practice was common at the time, especially in industrial communities before reforms that restricted child labor. Young workers in a cotton factory in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, in 1913. They worked long hours operating machines under difficult conditions with little rest. Many of these children and teenagers were forced to work to help their families. At the time, cotton factories had no worker protection laws, and safety was minimal. Lumberjacks posed next to giant sequoia logs in Humboldt County, California, in 1910. These trees, thousands of years old, were cut with manual tools to meet the growing demand for wood in city construction. At the time, there was little or no concern for environmental impact, and unchecked logging led to the destruction of vast forest areas. A crowd of pedestrians watches the chaos caused by a fire in the New York subway, under Broadway, in 1915. The fire, caused by a short circuit in power cables, disrupted subway traffic and caused significant damage. The incident raised concerns about the system's safety, leading to improvements in infrastructure and protection protocols in the following years. Margaret Gorman, a 16-year-old from Washington, D.C., was the winner of the first Miss America pageant in 1921. She received the title of Golden Mermaid and a prize of $100. The contest was created as a strategy to extend the summer tourist season in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and quickly became an iconic event in American culture. A fire truck travels down 72nd Street on Broadway in New York, heading to a fire in 1910. At the time, firefighters used horse-drawn vehicles to transport heavy equipment to the scene. The transition to motorized vehicles would occur in the following decades, modernizing the city's fire service. The Home Insurance Building in Chicago is considered the first skyscraper in the world. Built in 1885, it had 10 stories and revolutionized architecture by using a steel frame, allowing for taller and safer buildings. This engineering landmark was demolished in 1931, but left a lasting legacy, inspiring the development of high-rise buildings worldwide. In the Sheep Camp, Alaska, Courtney runs her store and post office from a tent. The 1899 photo shows adventurers and locals gathered around the small store, which offered services such as laundry, mail delivery, and supplies. During the Klondike Gold Rush, such places were vital for survival in such remote areas. Between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was destroyed by a white mob. Known as Black Wall Street, the black neighborhood was set on fire, resulting in about 300 deaths and more than 1,000 buildings destroyed. Thousands of residents were left homeless after accusations that a black man had assaulted a white woman. The Brooklyn Bridge, originally called the New York and Brooklyn Bridge and East River Bridge, appears in this photo still under construction. It took 13 years to complete and was inaugurated in 1883. When finished at 1,596 feet in length, it became the longest suspension bridge in the world, representing a milestone in engineering and connecting Manhattan and Brooklyn in an innovative way. A large group of immigrants rests for a meal at the Atlantic Park Hostel in Eastleigh, Hampshire. The location was a stopover point for many leaving Eastern Europe for America. These events provided shelter and food, while travelers awaited the next stage of their transatlantic journey, filled with hope and uncertainties. In the late 1940s, the interior of the White House was completely dismantled, leaving only the outer walls. The renovation was carried out due to structural deterioration after nearly 150 years of use. During the early Cold War, security was reinforced with a new steel structure and the construction of an underground bunker to protect the president in emergency situations. Here we see El Paso Street in El Paso, Texas, in 1903. The street served as an important commercial corridor, connecting the city to the Rio Grande and the Mexican border. The arrival of 4 railroads in 1881 boosted El Paso's population growth, from around 1,000 to more than 10,000 inhabitants in the 1890s. In the 1890s, a man rose in Boston Harbor, where, in addition to commercial activities, the location served as one of the main entry points for immigrants to the United States. Before the opening of Ellis Island in 1892, Boston received a significant number of immigrants, especially Irish. Today, the harbor no longer plays that role. The grand neoclassical cliff house, built in 1863, was a sophisticated resort on the San Francisco coast, offering stunning views of the Pacific Ocean. Despite its grandeur, the structure was destroyed by fire several times throughout its history. This photograph shows the original building, which served as a luxurious destination for the elite of the time. 2 men walked down a road toward Los Angeles in 1937. Carrying few belongings, they symbolize the thousands of migrants who left their homes in search of work and better living conditions. Often called Okies, these workers were drawn by the promise of opportunities in the West, especially in California. Residents of San Francisco, holding the few belongings they managed to save, watch helplessly as their homes and everything they built are consumed by flames. After the 1906 earthquake, ruptured gas pipelines caused a devastating fire that burned for 3 days, destroying 80% of the city. With water systems disabled, firefighters could do nothing, leaving thousands homeless. The busy St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans stood out in 1890 as a vibrant point of cultural diversity. Surrounded by mansions, streetcars, and an effervescent atmosphere, it was where different communities intersected. This avenue, known for its historic Mardi Gras parades, reflected the rich blend of French, Spanish, African, and American influences that shaped the city. 3 men searched the cold waters of a creek in the Black Hills, South Dakota, in 1889. They are prospecting for gold, using a technique known as panning, where gold was extracted by washing gravel in a pan. During the gold rush in the Black Hills, many like them tried their luck, hoping to strike it rich, though few succeeded. The snowstorm of February 1920 paralyzed New York, but markets on West Street remained full of carriages and wagons trying to keep business operations running. Even with the intense cold and accumulated snow, workers and merchants made efforts to ensure that goods were delivered, while the city faced the challenges posed by the severe weather. A woman braves the intense cold and snow in New York while collecting Christmas donations for the Salvation Army in 1900. Using a bell to attract attention, she collects funds to provide meals, clothes, and shelter for the poorest. The Salvation Army's tradition of bells and donation cans began in the late 19th century and soon became a symbol of the Christmas season. 2 overland carriages cross a narrow bridge on their way to the town of Deadwood, South Dakota, in 1889. These carriages, pulled by 6 horses, could carry up to 9 passengers and small loads. Overland trips were long and dangerous, facing uneven terrain, bandit attacks, and adverse weather conditions. Around 1890, workers at Stockdale Ranch stacked freshly cut hay into large mounds. Using horse-drawn wagons and simple tools, they prepared the hay to dry and store. The work in the fields was heavy, and farms like Stockdale depended on manual labor to manage agricultural production in California's Central Valley. In the early 19th century, the cotton market in Montgomery, Alabama, was a vital hub for the trade of the product that sustained the economy of the southern United States. The city's strategic location near the Alabama River facilitated the transportation of cotton to larger ports, taking it to markets in Europe and beyond. Outside Oak Ridge, Tennessee, a billboard draws attention to a town established in 1942 as part of the Manhattan Project. The sign, with messages emphasizing the need for secrecy, alerted workers to keep confidential the activities carried out there. Oak Ridge was one of the main centers for the development of the atomic bomb, housing secret facilities and thousands of workers. The City Hall station was the site of the opening of New York's first subway. With Beaux-Arts arches and tiles, it hosted authorities and guests for the inaugural ride. Operated by the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, the system began operating in 1904 and quickly became essential for the city's mobility and growth. Children in a school in Madison, Wisconsin, are photographed drinking milk in 1921. Before the establishment of the school milk program during World War II, some schools had already encouraged milk consumption as a way to improve child nutrition. This practice was an attempt to combat malnutrition and promote healthier eating habits among students. The busy Washington Street north of Temple Place was the heart of Boston in 1906. Carriages and new electric streetcars moved along the street, while hurried pedestrians crowded the sidewalks, surrounded by upscale shops and Victorian buildings. Washington Street was one of the first to receive electric streetcars, marking the beginning of a new phase in urban transportation. The Market Square in Cleburne, Texas, in 1900 was the heart of the town, always bustling with horses, wagons, and locals gathered. Farmers brought fresh produce like corn, cotton, and cattle, while merchants offered goods like tools, clothes, and household items. The suffragist Elizabeth Selden White Rogers promotes women's voting rights on a mobile platform through the streets of New York, surrounded by a crowd of men around 1915. This moment is part of the suffrage movement, which fought for political equality and resulted in the achievement of voting rights with the 19th Amendment in 1920. Las Vegas, founded in 1905, appears in its early form in this photo of Fremont Street. Lacking the tall hotels, neon-lit casinos, or sophisticated bars of today, the street is marked by simple Western-style facades. Among the establishments are a bakery, a grocery store, and a furniture shop, reflecting the city's humble beginnings before it became the entertainment capital of the world. Goldfield, a town that sprang up after gold was discovered in nearby hills, is portrayed here at the turn of the century. The scene resembles a classic Old West setting, with buildings like the nostalgic Esmeralda Hotel and the Mint Theater. Founded amid the gold rush, Goldfield quickly grew into a bustling center of mining and trade, attracting adventurers and workers in search of fortune. A group of indigenous people sits on Rock Cod in southeastern Alaska in 1868. In the background are Fort Wrangell and Wrangell Island, areas inhabited for centuries by the Ayak, Haida, Tsimshian, and Tlingit tribes. These communities maintained rich cultures and sustained their lives through fishing and trade, using the waters and resources of the region. In the 1860s, Wall Street solidified its position as the financial center of the United States. With banks, brokers, and financial institutions, the street was crucial for economic expansion during and after the Civil War. Major transactions, such as financing railroads and industries, fueled economic growth and established New York as a global financial powerhouse. In this photo, we see Dexter Avenue in Montgomery, Alabama, in 1906, with the Capitol in the background. Montgomery, famous as the birthplace of the Confederacy, was where Jefferson Davis assumed the Confederate presidency in 1861. By the early 20th century, the city was beginning to modernize, introducing electric streetcars and solidifying itself as an important political and economic center in the South. Titled Boston as the Eagle and the Wild Goose See It, this image is one of the first aerial photographs in the United States, taken in 1860. Taken from a hot air balloon, the photo shows the city of Boston, including iconic landmarks like the Old South Meeting House, the historic site where the Boston Tea Party was planned almost a century before. A gas station during the 1973 oil crisis displays a sign apologizing for a lack of fuel. The crisis, caused by an OPEC embargo, resulted in long lines at gas stations, rationing, and rising prices. This event marked a period of scarcity that affected transportation and the economy in the United States and many parts of the world. The main hall of Grand Central Terminal in New York is seen from the Campbell apartment in this 1937 photo. Located inside the station, the luxury apartment was the playground of financier John Campbell during the 1920s. At the time, part of Grand Central was adapted for residential and office spaces, in addition to being a key center of transportation, commerce, and elegance in New York. The drawbridge at 12th Street in Chicago, built in 1900, was designed to facilitate navigation on Lake Michigan. It would lift to allow large ships to pass as the city grew and expanded its infrastructure. This advancement helped drive trade and industry, especially in the transportation of goods across the lake. A soldier surveys the flooded city of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina in August 2005. The hurricane, one of the most devastating in U.S. history, left 1,800 dead. Most of the victims were low-income people and black communities, many of whom had difficulty evacuating before the storm and receiving help afterward. The busy Delaware Avenue in Philadelphia in 1908 shows horse-drawn wagons circulating through cobblestone streets. Beneath the elevated iron tracks, the avenue connected downtown to the busy Delaware River ports, where tons of goods passed daily. Crowds had already crowded the beaches and attractions of Coney Island in the 1890s. The location, accessible by train via the Brooklyn Rapid Transit Company, offered fun for all, with carousels, Ferris wheels, and outdoor shows. In 1895, Sea Lion Park opened as the country's first enclosed amusement park, making Coney Island one of the most popular destinations of the time. On the corner of 6th Avenue and 40th Street in Manhattan, on May 18, 1940, a man holds a newspaper with the headline, "Nazi Army Now, 75 Miles from Paris." The image captures the global tension reflected in New York streets as news of World War II reached the United States, highlighting the advance of Nazi troops during the Battle of France.